Welcome back to another PSP. Today, I, Zang, and my wonderful co-host Ace will be going over our number 13 ranked, power-ranked team, the Valley Giflords, of course, formerly known as Almartinet.
Yes, sir.
Let's get started. So we'll start off with the look back once again. In terms of 2025 standing, Almartinet at the time finished in 10th place with an 8-14 record. Quickly talk over some of their key trades and offseason acquisitions. It was a busy offseason for Almartinet, trading as always. Not as many trades, I think, as we normally see, but the ones that we did see were pretty significant. So the ins are some pretty big names in Bryce Miller, Yandy Diaz, Jordan Lawler, and Sean Burke. Most of those, of course, coming from some pretty big trades, along with some draft picks that came in. The outs, we did see both Jeremy Pena and Brian Bayo taken in the expansion draft. The Giflords also traded Brendan Donovan, Shea Langoliers, and Jesus Luzardo, the final two of those as a part of the league's first three-way trade. What do you think about the ins and outs here?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the ins, I really like Bryce Miller here. I've just always kind of been a bigger fan of the Seattle starting pitchers and kind of what Seattle has cooked up there for the starting pitcher role. I think Sean Burke is a kind of interesting pickup as well. We talked about the White Sox in an earlier video. And, I just think that, if he's able to kind of take control of a rotation or a spot in that rotation, he could be a big player there as well. As far as the losses, Shea Langoliers, I love him as a catcher, so I think that's kind of a tough one to swallow. He does have Yandy Diaz, Yanyer Diaz. So kind of makes up for it a little bit in that regard. And Brendan Donovan, that's definitely a big loss as well. I mean, definitely some rough ones, and obviously I think the one that hurt the most is Jeremy Pena, lost to expansion. That one is just absolutely brutal.
Losing him to expansion definitely hurts. A couple other guys, Brian Bayo and Luis Heel, also a Heel I forgot to list on here. But so just, losing some depth starting and then, a full-time starting shortstop from expansion definitely hurts. I obviously am a big fan of Shea Langoliers, having traded for him. It hurt to see Yandy Diaz and Bryce Miller go out the door. And I think they're honestly going to be really solid for the Giflords here. Let's get started by talking over that lineup. Speaking of whom, Yandy Diaz will be taking over Shea Langoliers' job at the catcher position. First base is one you can write in pen. That's Nick Kurtz. He's the number 11 ranked player in all of the IBW top 1,000 dynasty players. So real top-end talent there. We've got Matt McLean sitting at second base with Colson Montgomery, the young White Sox left-sided infielder, at third base. Jacob Wilson is at shortstop with his Sacramento Athletics teammate Tyler Soderstrom holding down the infield spot. Elliot Ramos is no longer there because he has been traded. So James Wood will be manning left field. James Wood being the 27th ranked dynasty player. Pete Crow Armstrong, as always, is going to be out there in center. PCA ranking at number 21 on that list. And then in right field, Fernando Tatis Jr., number 8. Top 10 player there. Colton Cowser will hold down the flex outfield position. And at utility, we maybe have, in my opinion, one of the most interesting stories to watch all season in Munetaka Murakami.
Yeah, we all knew Murakami was going to go to Almartinet, right? That was what was predicted all offseason, was he was going to go like 4th or 5th overall.
That's what we thought.
Totally.
It was just so funny looking back how in July the two of us were like, it's not even a question. Number one, no doubt about it.
We were already penciling him into serial chillers.
And then, so Look, I talked about this on
Sox.
Yeah, exactly. I talked about this on the last pod. I pay attention a lot to what organizations think of guys, and clearly quite a few organizations were turned off by him. At the same time, we're looking at a guy who's got multiple 50 home run seasons in his career. Like there is that huge power potential. So just like it's going to be fun to kind of watch on the White Sox, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch over here. Yeah. What are some other kind of key spots in the lineup that you're taking a look at?
I think we got to definitely take a look at James Wood. He was kind of like the quote-unquote big, before the offseason started, trade that was made. Obviously, that was the James Wood, Yoshinobu Yamamoto trade. So you send a big pitching piece for a massive young outfield piece, your outfielder of the future, to pair with Pete Crow Armstrong, who's also another top 25 ranked, and Fernando Tatis, who's a top 10 ranked. And like you said, pairing that with Nick Kurtz, I really love the Yonyer Diaz at catcher. And I got to give shout out to the A's teammates, Jacob Wilson and Tyler Soderstrom. Also, fun note about Jacob Wilson, I went to high school with his cousin, and I followed him on Instagram. So
hell yeah.
I learned that he was cousins with him. I was like, that's awesome. So yeah, shout out Jacob Wilson, hometown Thousand Oaks in California. So always rooting for him to have a good season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is a really, really strong lineup. 4 guys in the top 100 is something you love to see. Also something, if you look down his entire list of batters, minor leaguers, major leaguers, IR guys, not a single person over the age of 30. So this is clearly a team that is designed to be together for a while and to be competitive for a while.
You said 4 guys in the top 100. He's got 4 guys in the top 30.
He's got 4 guys in the top 30, exactly. Yeah.
He's definitely got a young talent of the future.
A lot of young talent for sure. And I really don't think it would shock a lot of people to see guys like Wilson or Montgomery, even if we see that big boom, a guy like Murakami make that list come around next year. So we will slide over to the pitching staff, where things are a little bit more sparse than on the hitting side. This is definitely a lineup first team. Emmett Sheehan is sort of the ace of this staff. Out in the Dodgers, he's ranked number 77 on that list, but he is the only top 100 guy on this list. Bryce Miller, who we listed earlier, obviously pitching out in Seattle, which is a great environment for him. We've got Seth Lugo, who's ever consistent in Kansas City now. Brandon Pfaadt and Sean Burke kind of rounds out the rotation there. So definitely some really nice young high-end talent in Sheehan and Miller, and then some pretty solid guys as well in Lugo and Burke, and then kind of a flyer, or in Lugo and Pfaadt, pardon me, and then kind of a flyer with Burke, who could really kind of go either way. Solid bullpen. Mason Miller, obviously, best reliever in baseball. We've got him here. And then his San Diego teammate, Adrian Morejon, is also on this team. We've got Nick Mears as well out in Kansas City, who's projected to have a pretty solid year.
Yeah, I think this is really where Almartinet's team kind of takes a dive. If you really just take a look at that hitting lineup, you would feel like, oh, this team is bound to make the playoffs with all that young, incredible hitting talent. But then you get to the pitching staff, and it's really where it kind of takes a downturn here. Only got 2 pitchers projected above 500 points, with one being the 36-year-old aforementioned Seth Lugo, and the other one being the 27-year-old younger Brandon Pfaadt in Arizona. So it's really where this team is going to take a dive. And one thing I've always talked about, and I guess hinting a little bit towards my record prediction for him, is when you don't have starting pitching, you're really not going to go that far. And he does have a chance for some guys to really pop off here. Mason Miller is a massive one, another piece that was acquired in that James Woods Yamamoto deal. So we can see, how much he carries that relief pitching room. But yeah, I just think it's going to be a bit of a rough season for Almartinet, just given the lack of starting pitching depth.
Yeah, the depth is what worries me a little bit. I mean, any of these guys go down, and we're seeing Taj Bradley get regular starts, Slade Sessione, and Kyle Harrison. I actually think he's an interesting X factor here. We sort of had a whole discussion on this in Talking Baseball the other day. Never really clicked in San Francisco despite his prospect pedigree. He didn't take to Boston's pitching program well at all. It does seem like things are going well in Milwaukee, and we know what they can do for young pitchers, particularly with a fastball like his. So I think that's an interesting player to keep an eye on if he potentially kind of pops off like we saw Quinn Priester last year. Jared Jones is another one, former top pitching prospect, but a couple injured years now, and his stock has definitely fallen. So there's a lot of room for growth for sure with these young guys. And similarly, I think the only player on his entire roster over the age of 30 is Seth Lugo. And Luis Severino as well. There at 32. But again, we're talking two guys, so it's a young staff as well. So lots of room for growth. But I definitely worry a little bit about how, I think particularly in a pitching dominated league like ours, how this is going to carry. It could be really interesting. We did buff batters a little bit in the offseason. So I think it'll be interesting to see, how a super lineup heavy team like this plays.
Hey everyone, Future Zang here. Just wanted to update you on a few things from the Valley Giflords pitching staff that have happened in the last couple days. Specifically stuff that's kind of relevant to the preview we just gave about it. So firstly, we did actually see Brandon Pfaadt, who we mentioned as sort of a low ceiling but high floor guy in this rotation, get traded over to the Sault Ste. Marie Locks for a second round pick. And then later in the week, on Wednesday, a day before you all will be hearing this, we actually heard the news that Bryce Miller, who was talked about as kind of one of the young high upside arms in this rotation, one of the guys Ali ended up trading Shea Langoliers for, that he was not able to pitch his bullpen, will return to flat ground pitching only. I know my cat has a lot of thoughts on this. So Ali, Almartinet, or the Valley Giflords, actually decided to just kind of get off that asset, as it were, and ended up trading the second round pick they got for Brandon Pfaadt, along with Bryce Miller, over to the Valley Giflords over to Sault Ste. Marie, for Shane Smith. I may have misspoken earlier. Sault Ste. Marie is the team that got Brandon Pfaadt, in case I misspoke. So, in short, the Sault Ste. Marie Locks get Bryce Miller and Brandon Pfaadt in exchange for Shane Smith is kind of how it all worked out. Definitely quite a shakeup for the Valley Giflords pitching staff compared to how we kind of previewed it here. I worry about it being a little bit short-sighted. Obviously, there's that injury concern with Miller, and we know that, but he's got so much upside. And Shane Smith, who, just a year ago made the team as a Rule 5 pick, had a solid year where he put up about 15 points per game from a fantasy perspective, but, not blow you away stuff. Giving him up for, effectively those two guys, one with a higher floor and one with a higher ceiling, does feel a little scary. Then again, we could look at this trade pretty differently if Bryce Miller does end up having, a pretty significant, or I guess I should say, we could look at it this year pretty differently if Bryce Miller ends up having, more of a significant or longer term injury. So I did just want to update that a little bit because, obviously, those are two guys we talked about a lot. And Shane Smith is the White Sox opening day starter. So, a notable arm coming back. Let me send it on back to past Ace and Zang.
We will talk over quickly the prospects who might see some time at the majors this year. Bryce Eldridge is the first one. He's ranked as prospect number 17. Big guy, 6'7", just absolute beastly power. Big guys usually, as you know, mean big swing and miss, but he has a really quality eye. An interesting thing with a young guy like him is he really profiles as a DH. He is not a good defender at all at first base, and they now have Rafael Devers playing over there. So everything I've understood, at least from my sister, the massive Giants fan, what she's told me is basically at 21, this guy's going to be the everyday DH. So there's definitely a little bit of a, positional factor, but it would surprise absolutely no one in the prospect world if he is like one of the top power hitting bats in the game within the next couple of years. So definitely someone to keep an eye on there. Andrew Painter is such an interesting case where he was once like the perfect pitching prospect. We're talking like 1.5 ERA. The famous stat that was always going around in 2022, he had a 38% 6.7 to 6.2 K to walk ratio. So striking out everyone and walking no one. But he had a 2-year TJ injury that really derailed things. His velocity is still good. It's still in the upper 90s, but the fastball shape just isn't quite there, and it gets hit really hard. He's kind of working to sort through those secondaries. So again, we're seeing, sort of a similar theme here. Massive boom potential, but that floor is also pretty low. And Alex Freeland is our last guy. He's not likely to see a ton of time. I think he's ranked as prospect number 428. He's a speed first guy, so speed is that main tool. He's got 2 30-bag seasons in his professional career. Majorly exposed on the hit tool last year. But he's got, over a 45% hard hit rate. So when he makes contact, he's making pretty solid contact. And probably his best value, is that he's young and defensively flexible in what is quietly becoming a pretty old Dodgers infield. So as those guys maybe need a rest, get injured, or in the coming years eventually kind of graduate from everyday starters, he could start to see some time there. Tell me about your projection for this upcoming season. What's the Valley Giflords record going to look like come September?
Really quickly, before I give the projection, I'm going to just talk really quickly on a prospect that I kind of wanted to highlight. I think Andrew Painter is one to definitely look out for. He was another one that, was acquired through the trade with the Yamamoto, James Wood, all that thing. So this is definitely a interesting choice here to see kind of how he turns out, how he plays out, and we'll see kind of what he turns into. And if he turns into a massive piece, this pitching staff could really use a boost like that. Like I said, you see a young guy really pop off for more than what he's capable of.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. You see him even 80% of what kind of that ceiling potential was, like, all of a sudden this starting rotation looks a lot better with a guy like that near the top of it. So I definitely agree with you there on him, being kind of an X factor. Do you have, pardon me, I did skip that one. This is, for the audience, this is only our second one, so we're getting in the rhythm a little bit. No. But what about projection for the season? What do you think his record's going to look like?
Yeah, I think it's going to, like I said before, I think it's going to be a rough season for Almartinet, just with the lack of the starting pitcher depth. I'm going to go with 6-15. I know that sounds terrible, but I just think it's going to be a bit of a rough season with the lack of pitching, man. I apologize.
Yeah, no, I actually have the same record prediction written down. I like you, I worry so much about the ceiling of the pitching and the floor of the pitching, talking a little bit about the depth. I don't think... I wouldn't be super, super stunned if we see a better record than this, sort of carried off of those bats. Again, we don't really know how a bat-heavy line, team is going to play with sort of the new scoring system. But I think, regardless, I don't think we're seeing playoffs this year in the Valley. So wonderful. That is our 13th ranked team. We will see you back tomorrow for number 12.
Do you know what that makes you?